So Doc, you mentioned in the last video that the first key to the 5 keys of health is to get neurologically free. What does that mean?
Well, when we talk about being neurologically free, what we're referencing is the relationship of the skull, in other words, the skull or cranium, the atlas, the very top vertebra, and then the cervical vertebra down below it. These structures house the brain, then the brainstem, and then the spinal cord. And the position of the skull, the atlas, and the cervical spine will influence how well the brain, the brainstem, and the spinal cord can send information. And so if someone's had a trauma, an injury per se, at some point to their head and their neck, it will create an abnormal structural position for that skull, atlas, and neck. And when that happens, it will detrimentally impact how the brain is able to send information through the brainstem and spinal cord. That's what we're referencing when we're talking about living free of interference. And as much as diet's really important and what we feed our body with, and exercise and some of these other components we'll talk about in a minute, the foundational component, which most people actually haven't been exposed to yet, is this component. It's the idea that the brain does send the information through the spinal cord, and it controls our heart, our kidneys, our lungs, every organ, every tissue, every cell in the body. And so if this area doesn't have the right proximity of skull, atlas, and neck, then our global health is very detrimentally impacted. So when we're talking about being free of interference or neurologically free, we're talking about how the brain and the body can communicate to the organs, tissues, and cells, and how that's affected by the position of the skull, the atlas, and the neck. Interesting, most people haven't actually been exposed to this concept before. And so I would call this really the kind of the missing key, if you will, or the foundation for all the other components of health to exist properly.
Awesome, that's cool.